He began as a champagne salesman, but within a decade, Joachim von Ribbentrop stood at Adolf Hitler's side as Germany's foreign minister. His career was built on loyalty, arrogance, and blind ambition. This is the story of how an ambitious outsider rose to power and ended on the gallows at Nuremberg. Joachim von Ribbentrop was born on April 30, 1893 in Wesel, a garrison town in the Prussian Rhine province. His father, Richard Ulrich Friedrich Joachim Ribbentrop, served as a career officer in the Imperial German Army. The family lived a typical military lifestyle, moving frequently as his father was posted to new assignments. This upbringing gave Joachim early exposure to the culture of discipline and hierarchy that defined the officer corps of Imperial Germany. Unlike many of his contemporaries who pursued strict military or bureaucratic careers, Ribbentrop's early life was unusually cosmopolitan. After attending schools in Germany, he spent time abroad in Switzerland, Britain, and Canada, working odd jobs and picking up strong English and French skills. The experience made him seem worldly in later diplomatic circles, but also encouraged his tendency to exaggerate his experiences, a trait that would define him throughout his career. When the First World War began in 1914, Ribbentrop returned to Germany and enlisted in the 1st Hussar Regiment. He served on the Eastern Front and later on the Western Front, earning the Iron Cross for his service. His wartime record was respectable but not distinguished. By the end of the war in 1918, he had reached the rank of lieutenant. Like many officers of his generation, the defeat of Germany and the collapse of the monarchy left him disillusioned and uncertain about the future. In the post-war years, Ribbentrop turned to business. He worked in finance and international trade, eventually finding his niche in the wine and spirits industry. He represented French champagne houses in Germany, particularly Henkel & Co., one of the leading sparkling wine producers. His charm and foreign language skills allowed him to network effectively with both German elites and foreign clients. This period earned him the nickname of the Champagne Salesman, a label that followed him for the rest of his life. A major turning point came in 1920 when Ribbentrop married Anneliese Henkel, daughter of the wealthy Henkel family. This marriage gave him financial stability and entry into high society. Through Anneliese, he secured not only wealth but also valuable social connections that would prove decisive when he entered politics. The couple eventually had 5 children, and the Ribbentrops maintained an affluent lifestyle in Berlin. During the unstable years of the Weimar Republic, Ribbentrop grew increasingly nationalistic. He associated with right-wing circles and became convinced that Germany needed strong leadership to restore its power. By the late 1920s, he was already making contacts with figures of the nationalist scene, though he had not yet joined a political party. His marriage, fortune, and international experience allowed him to stand out among the many conservative men seeking influence. Finally, in 1932, Ribbentrop joined the Nazi Party. He was not a long-time activist like many early members, but his wealth, foreign connections, and ambition made him immediately valuable to Hitler's circle. It was the first step from businessman into politics, setting the stage for his sudden rise. When Hitler came to power in January 1933, Ribbentrop was still a newcomer. Unlike veteran party members, he lacked deep ideological roots in the movement. That year, he offered his villa in Berlin's Dahlem district for Nazi meetings. Hitler himself visited often, hosting both German officials and foreign guests. The gesture gave Ribbentrop direct access to the Führer and marked the true beginning of his political ascent. In 1934, Ribbentrop was appointed Special Commissar for Disarmament, a surprising role given his limited experience. He represented Germany in negotiations with the League of Nations and in the bilateral talks with Britain. Although he presented himself as a seasoned statesman, career diplomats viewed him with skepticism. Many considered him an arrogant outsider who lacked the subtlety and patience of real diplomacy. Still, his willingness to echo Hitler's positions without hesitation earned him growing trust from the Führer. By 1935, his responsibilities expanded. Officially titled Minister Plenipotentiary at Large, Ribbentrop increasingly acted as Hitler's personal envoy on British affairs. He reached out to aristocrats, businessmen, and politicians, hoping to lay the groundwork for an Anglo-German understanding. Some contacts responded politely, but most British leaders doubted his credibility. Within the foreign ministry, career diplomats dismissed him as an upstart who had risen through Hitler's favor rather than skill. He often clashed with Foreign Minister Konstantin von Neurath, who saw him as reckless and unprofessional. In June 1935, he helped negotiate the Anglo-German Naval Agreement, which allowed Germany to build a fleet up to 35% of Britain's, a deal Hitler hailed as a triumph. Beyond Britain, Ribbentrop also played a part in forging Germany's first formal alliance. In November 1936, he helped negotiate the Anti-Comintern Pact with Japan, directed against the Soviet Union's Communist International. The agreement marked the beginning of the Axis alignment and signaled that Hitler's Germany was seeking partners in both Europe and Asia. Ribbentrop's prominence grew from these efforts, but so did his arrogance. By 1936, Hitler considered him indispensable and rewarded him with his first major diplomatic posting abroad, ambassador to the United Kingdom. It was a role that would test both his skills and his inflated sense of self-importance. In August 1936, Ribbentrop arrived in London as Germany's ambassador. Believing himself uniquely qualified, he spoke English, had lived in Britain, and was confident he could reshape Anglo-German relations. At first, Ribbentrop sought to charm his hosts. He cultivated ties with aristocrats, businessmen, and even members of the royal family. He presented himself as refined, worldly, and committed to peace, hoping to counter Britain's suspicions of Hitler's intentions. Yet his efforts often came across as forced. British diplomats and politicians soon judged him arrogant, self-important, and too eager to lecture. Instead of fostering goodwill, he created distance. Ribbentrop misread Britain's determination to resist German expansion. He believed London would accept Hitler's ambitions on the continent in exchange for friendship or even partnership with Berlin. To support this, he pressed for a grand alliance between Britain, Germany, Italy, and Japan. The idea was to build a bloc of empires that would divide spheres of influence across the world. British leaders, however, rejected the proposal as unrealistic and threatening. His reputation suffered further from his blunt behavior. On one occasion, he is said to have raised his arm in the Nazi salute before King George VI, an act that shocked the court and symbolized his lack of tact. British officials increasingly saw him not as a bridge builder, but as a propagandist for Hitler. Behind his back, many dismissed him as shallow and overbearing. Meanwhile, within Germany, Ribbentrop's standing with Hitler continued to grow. The Führer appreciated his unwavering loyalty and his ability to carry out orders without hesitation. Even though his mission in London was failing, Ribbentrop convinced Hitler that the British government was weak and would ultimately avoid war. This miscalculation would echo throughout the late 1930s, shaping Hitler's view of British resolve. By early 1938, it was clear that Ribbentrop had not secured the diplomatic breakthrough he promised. His time in London ended in disappointment, yet rather than being demoted, he was recalled to Germany for promotion. In February 1938, Hitler appointed him foreign minister, replacing the cautious Constantin von Neurath. The choice caused shock in many diplomatic corps. Seasoned professionals who had spent decades in service were expected to follow the lead of a former champagne salesman with little formal training. Ribbentrop's tenure as ambassador had been marked by arrogance, misjudgment, and failure, but in Hitler's eyes, those flaws mattered less than loyalty. As foreign minister, Ribbentrop would now play a central role in Nazi Germany's most audacious diplomatic moves that would pave the way to World War. His early months as minister coincided with Germany's aggressive expansion. Ribbentrop played a role in the Anschluss of Austria in March 1938 and supported Hitler at the Munich Conference in September 1938, where Britain and France accepted the dismemberment of Czechoslovakia. He framed these moves as triumphs of diplomacy, but in reality, they reflected Hitler's will more than his own skill. Still, they gave Ribbentrop the prestige of being associated with success. His most infamous achievement came in August 1939, when he traveled to Moscow to sign the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact with Soviet Foreign Minister Molotov. The treaty shocked the world, pledging mutual non-aggression and secretly dividing Eastern Europe into German and Soviet spheres of influence. For Hitler, it removed the danger of a two-front war. For Ribbentrop, it was his defining moment, cementing his reputation as the man who secured the Soviet deal that opened the way for the invasion of Poland on September 1, 1939. During the war, Ribbentrop sought to expand Germany's alliances. He negotiated the Tripartite Pact in 1940, bringing Italy and Japan formally into partnership with Berlin. He also pushed for closer ties with Hungary, Romania, and other occupied or satellite states. Yet his influence declined after 1941. The catastrophic invasion of the Soviet Union and Germany's faltering war effort reduced the importance of foreign policy. Hitler grew increasingly distrustful of diplomats, preferring to rely on military commanders and his own instincts. Ribbentrop remained outwardly loyal but was increasingly marginalized. Other Nazi leaders, including Hermann Göring and Heinrich Himmler, bypassed him in favor of direct access to Hitler. Foreign officials found him rigid and unconvincing. Even within the Nazi hierarchy, his arrogance isolated him. Still, he continued to defend Hitler's policies, including measures against Jewish populations across occupied Europe, which were put up as evidence at Nuremberg. As Germany collapsed in the spring of 1945, Ribbentrop tried to maintain a role, even attempting to contact Allied leaders to negotiate. His efforts went nowhere. On June 14, 1945, he was captured by Allied forces near Hamburg. Brought to trial at Nuremberg, he faced charges of crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. Unlike some defendants, Ribbentrop showed little remorse. He portrayed himself as a loyal servant of the state and insisted he had only followed Hitler's orders. At one point, he declared, "Even with all I know, if in this cell Hitler should come to me and say, 'Do this,' I would still do it." The statement shocked observers and confirmed the perception of a man so consumed by loyalty that he was unable or unwilling to admit guilt or responsibility. The tribunal rejected his defense. On October 1, 1946, he was found guilty on all counts. His sentence was death by hanging. In the early hours of October 16, 1946, Joachim von Ribbentrop was executed. Thus ended the life of a man who rose from wine salesman to the Third Reich's foreign minister. Joachim von Ribbentrop rose from wine salesman to foreign minister, but blind loyalty sealed his fate. His story is a warning of ambition without judgment. Watch our other videos for more on the figures who shaped World War II, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more History Inside. And we'll see you in the next one.